You ever hear a sound that stops your heart cold? That crunch of metal on steel, that scream of an engine giving up the ghost? That's how it went down on my quiet little street in Willow Creek. When Linda Carver, our neighborhood's self-crowned HOA dictator, smashed her shiny Lexus SUV right into my fence only this time. My fence didn't budge. And her car? Totaled. Smoke pouring from the hood. Bumper dangling like a broken jaw. And Linda stumbling out, her designer scarf flapping in a breeze, staring at what she thought was her personal shortcut turned into her worst nightmare. Neighbors peeked out from their windows, some laughing, some filming. And me? I just stood on my porch, coffee in hand, feeling like I'd finally won a war I didn't start. Want to know how a regular guy like me took down the queen of the cul-de-sac with nothing but a fence and a plan? Stick around this one to ride. I moved to Willow Creek 3 years ago, chasing that suburban dream. Kids on bikes, barbecues on Sundays, a yard you're proud to mow. My house wasn't anything fancy, just a cozy two-story with a wraparound porch, but I poured my heart into making it mine. The crown jewel? My fence. Laugh if you want, but that thing was my masterpiece cedar planks I cut and stained myself. Every post level, every board painted a clean, crisp white that glowed under the morning sun. I'd spent weekends hammering away, my dog Rusty panting beside me, a cold beer sweating on the grass. It wasn't just a fence, it was my stake in the ground, my little piece of the world. For a while, life was good, sipping coffee on the porch, waving at neighbors, feeling like I belonged. Then Linda Carver rolled in, and everything changed. Linda wasn't just another neighbor, she was the HOA's enforcer-in-chief. A woman in her early 60s with a perm as tight as her grip on power, always strutting around in tailor blazers and oversized sunglasses like she was auditioning for a villain role in a Lifetime movie. She didn't just live in Willow Creek, she ruled it. HOA meetings were her stage, where she'd lecture us about mailbox heights or grass length with this smug little smirk, like we were all peasants in her kingdom. At first, I shrugged her off, let her nitpick about my neighbor's pink flamingo or the way Mrs. Thompson's roses were too vibrant. I just wanted to keep the peace. But then she set her sights on me. It started small, Linda cruising by in her Lexus, window down, tossing out comments like, "Hey, Tom, that fence is looking a tad rustic. HOA prefers a more polished white, don't you think?" I'd smile, nod, and go back to my coffee, figuring she was just bored. But then one morning, Rusty's barking woke me up, and I stepped outside to find my fence in shambles, boards cracked, posts leaning, and tire tracks carved through my lawn like a monster truck rally had come through. I didn't need a detective to know who did it. Later that day, I saw Linda peeling out of her driveway, cutting across my yard like it was her personal express lane, giving me this little wave that screamed, "What you gonna do about it, buddy?" I tried to be reasonable, caught her one afternoon unloading groceries and said, "Linda, we're driving through my fence. It's out of stop." She just laughed, adjusting her sunglasses. "Oh, Tom, it's barely a fence, just a few sticks in the dirt. If you wanted privacy, you should have built something stronger." I bit my tongue so hard it hurt. Any decent person would have apologized, maybe offered to cover repairs. Not Linda. She doubled down. At the next HOA meeting, she stood up, all prim and proper, and said, "We need to address property maintenance issues. Some fences are bringing down the neighborhood's charm." Then she stared right at me, like I was the one tearing up my own yard. I filed a complaint, sent photos, even a grainy video of her Lexus plowing through. The HOA's response? A form letter saying it was a great area. A week later, I got a fine $154 fence disrepair. I was livid. She wrecks my property, and I'm the one paying for it? That's when it hit. His wasn't just about a fence. It was personal. Linda wasn't just careless. She was flexing her power, daring me to fight back. knowing the HOA was her playground. Every time I fixed that fence, every weekend I spent nailing boards back together, she'd drive through again, laughing into her phone like it was a game. My neighbors started whispering some felt bad. Others thought it was funny. One guy, Mike from across the street, even joked, "Tom, just put up a toll booth at this point." But the costs weren't funny lumber, paint my time. And the fines kept coming, each one like a slap in the face. I was losing money, pride, and patience. The breaking point came one Sunday when my sister and her kids were over for a barbecue. We were out back, burgers sizzling, kids chasing Rusty around, when Linda's Lexus roared through the fence, boards flying like shrapnel. She missed the picnic table by inches. Me nephew froze, a hot dog in his hand, eyes wide with fear. Linda didn't stop, just waved like she was in a parade and sped off, her laughter echoing down the street. I looked at my sister's face, pale as a ghost, and something in me snapped. This wasn't just about me, Anna Marie. It was about safety, about standing up to someone who thought she was untouchable. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, rage simmering but sharpening into something else, a plan. I wasn't going to yell or throw a punch. That's what Linda wanted, something she could twist against me. No, I wasn't going to play her game, but smarter. I started digging figuratively at first. I pored over HOA bylaws, city codes, anything I could find, hunting for a way to fight back legally. And then I found it, buried in the fine print. Homeowners could reinforce their fences however they wanted, as long as the outside looked the same. It was like finding a golden ticket. Linda thought she had me cornered, but she'd missed this one little rule. The next morning, I was up at dawn, sketching ideas, calling my old buddy Dave, who's a contractor. I needed a fence that could take a hit steel posts, concrete footings, the kind of stuff you'd find on a highway median. But from the street, it'd look like the same old white cedar fence, HOA approved and innocent as ever. I added one more touch. Thorny blackberry bushes tangled along the base, pretty enough to pass HOA muster, but mean enough to make anyone regret getting too close. I worked in secret, late at night, porch lights off, a single work lamp casting shadows while Rusty kept watch. I dug post holes 4 feet deep, my back screaming, blisters popping on my hands. I poured concrete, sank steel posts so solid an earthquake couldn't budge them, then clad them in cedar, every board measured to match the old fence. From the street, it was perfect white, neat, unassuming. Underneath, a fortress. I planted those blackberries, their thorns glinting in the moonlight, and set up 2 tiny security cameras, hidden in the shrubs, ready to catch every second of what was coming. During the day, I played dumb-waved at Linda, fixed up old fence sections to keep her off my trail. She'd cruise by, smirking, thinking she'd won. She had no idea what was waiting. The day it happened was a Saturday, one of those lazy afternoons where the air feels thick with possibility. I was on my porch, flipping through magazine, really just watching her house. Her garage door rolled up, and out came the Lexus, chrome sparkling like it owned the world. Linda, sunglasses on, hair perfect, didn't even glance my way, just revved the engine and aimed straight for my fence, same as always. I held my breath, heart pounding like a drum. The sound wasn't what she expected, no splintering wood, no easy victory. It was a bone-rattling clang, metal screaming against metal. Her SUV lurched, the front end crumpling like tinfoil, airbags popping with a dull thump. Blackberry thorns raked across the paint, shredding it like claws. Linda shrieked high-pitched, desperate, her sunglasses flying off as she stumbled out, scratched and disheveled, staring at her wrecked car. Neighbors spilled out like ants at a picnic, phones up, recording every glorious second. I walked over, slow and calm, coffee still in hand. Linda spun on me, face red, pointing like I'd set a bear trap. You did this. You booby-trapped your fence. I shrugged, fighting a grin. Nah, Linda, I just built a better fence. Guess your Lexus isn't as tough as you thought. The crowd laughed real, loud laughs, not the hushed one she used to silence. She kicked at the fence, expecting it to collapse. It didn't move. The steel clanged under her heel, and she looked like she might combust. This is illegal. You'll pay for this. I held up a folder: permits, bylaws, receipts, all in order. Want to check my paperwork? Or maybe the security footage? Her eyes widened, and for the first time, I saw fear. The HOA president, Ed, showed up, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Linda grabbed his arm, ranting about sabotage, demanding I be fined, expelled, whatever. Ed flipped through my folder, his frown deepening. Linda, he said, you drove into his property. The fence is legal. She screeched. He set me up. I leaned in, voice low. Nobody forced you to treat my yard like a highway, Linda. The neighbors roared, phones still rolling. Her reign was over, and everyone knew it. It didn't stop there. The insurance adjuster came, took one look at her car, and shook his head. Ma'am, this isn't vandalism, you trespassed. Neighbors chimed in, spilling stories of her reckless driving, her bullying. Her claim was denied, her premium spiked, and the HOA stripped her of her board seat. But the real knockout came a week later. Linda, unhinged, stormed over and yanked my mailbox out of the ground concrete in Allen broad daylight. Neighbors gasped, phones out again. Mrs. Carter yelled, "That's a federal crime, you maniac." Before Linda could blink, cops rolled up, cuffs out. She screamed about conspiracies as they led her away, her mascara-streaked face glaring at me through the squad car window. I just waved. A month later, a for sale sign went up in her yard. I rebuilt my fence one last time, added a little plaque, Linda's last ride. Neighbors loved it, snapping pics, laughing like we'd all been freed. And we had. Linda's empire of petty rules and power trips was gone, toppled by a guy with a hammer, some steel, and a whole lot of patience. Looking back, it wasn't just about the fence, it was about standing up to someone who thought they could roll over everyone else. Linda didn't lose because of my trap. She lost because she couldn't stop herself. Arrogance is a funny thing. It blinds you to the wall right in front of you, even when it's painted bright white. So what do you think? I go too far? Or was this justice served? Got your own story about a bully who got what was coming? Drop it in the comments. And let's talk, how do you handle the Lindas in your life? Hit subscribe if you're here for more stories where the little guy wins. Because trust me, I've got plenty more where this came from.